Well, we have the very dubious distinction. I'm sure everyone's incredibly hungry at this point, so thanks for sticking with us. We're just going to have a conversation and hopefully try and be a bit provocative given the fact that you all are ready for lunch, and I think so are we. So my name is Greg Bernstein. I'm a general partner at Sequoia Capital, also executive in residence for EQT Partners, EQT Ventures. Benoit, do you want to just briefly introduce yourself?
I'm Benoit Lemaignan. I'm co-founder and CEO at Verkor, and happy to share a little bit of our journey together with Greg in this roundtable today.
So we thought about really kind of trying to steer this conversation in a direction that I think is a little bit different from what you heard from some of the other panels today. I think my colleague from General Catalyst was really kind of talking about the global resilience element of what's happening in the market. Verkor, if you're not familiar, a battery factory is a little bit more than software. It takes some CapEx, some chemistry, and a whole lot more to actually be able to affect really what we're trying to accomplish, which is a low carbon future, but also the reindustrialization of a pretty important part of the country, which is France, and where we meet today. So you and I met a number of years ago, and the company was 10 people and a PowerPoint.
Yes, absolutely. It all started, like you had said earlier today, by others, be them investors or entrepreneurs or other parties, with a clear idea that to decarbonize mobility, we need to accelerate, scale up, speed up the battery value chain, because all the mobility is going to switch to battery, at least all terrestrial mobility is going to switch to battery, and the sooner the better, because it will have climate benefits, social benefits, cost benefits, also geopolitical benefits, quite a lot. And this is the root and the core of the project of Verkor, to say, hey, what can we do as entrepreneurs with the skills we have, the talents we have, to accelerate that transition? And there is no need for, I would say, technology disruptions to accelerate and speed up this activity. But like it was the case probably 20 years ago in the first digitalized revolution that we've seen happening in the photography industry or in the telco industry, in the mobility industry, we should not expect that this will come from the incumbent, but mostly from the new kids on the block. Tesla has been showing the way and demonstrated that we can first manufacture EVs, second, they can be nice cars, and third, they can be competitive and make money. So the idea of Verkor was to be a piece in that whole switch to a new setup, and for that, the center technology is the battery, and this is what we are about.
But it's still pretty early. I mean, when we got going, it was not just the idea and the vision about what we were going to do, but we had a couple key kind of, I would say, like architectural elements that built the company. And really, as your lead investor from the last round, the challenge is that we went literally from a PowerPoint to a very large customer to breaking ground in 2 different locations and then raising 2 billion euros in really the course of about 2 years. And so it had the elements, or still has the elements, of a very fast-growing software company. We heard from the guys at Loom earlier, and I'm sure that most of you are tracking other opportunities in the capital markets of fast-growing companies like that. But Verkor has been on a similar ascent. So maybe let's talk a little bit about that, because I think the architectural elements around how we actually set up the company, particularly now, as the market has become much more challenged for things that are not AI-enabled, which I think we also heard about earlier. What were the elements around that you think thus far have really paid off?
I think this is something we've been discussing quite a lot with early investors, also with the team, because one of the questions that popped up in our minds was, are we a startup or are we not a startup? What is a startup? Are we a company raising billions, just spending in marketing or whatever, with a product that has to be pivoted? Or do we have a clear plan to deploy capital on assets, industrial assets, and then to make revenue over a long period of time? Clearly, we were shooting for the second, even if we are seen as a startup or part of the next 40 in France or part of the next unicorn, whatever. This is not the objective. The objective from the start was to build an industrial ecosystem at Verkor and around Verkor, leveraging, first of all, to do that, 3 things. First of all, it's about people, because battery manufacturing is no easy thing. It's a lot about electrochemistry, chemistry, metallurgy, minerals, and a lot of competencies that clearly have been developed mostly in Asia than in the US or in Europe. The second one is to have customers, because if you are to raise a lot of capital on such amounts, and I will give a little bit of color on that, we need to have investors that also understand it. And when we speak of architecture, it was not obvious for the VC type of investor we had to attract at the beginning to understand what we do, the time it takes, the risk associated to that, also the revenue profile. Because it's obvious, but clearly the multiples that probably we have seen as the financial industry for the last 20, 30 years are probably not exactly the same that we should expect from industrial companies such as Verkor for many different reasons. But the first one is that you guys as customers probably won't like to pay the premium prices that you would need as investors to have the multiples that you would appreciate as an investor into Verkor. So there is a balance to be found between that. And I think the third one is for sure the capacity of investors to see for a long period of time the need to probably re-inject and then be patient enough until the company reaches its revenue and profitability levels that we are expecting to come for. That will be a period of time of probably 3, 5, 7 years of burning money, not burning money, investing money into industrial assets that has a value in itself, but also that generates those revenues and protects the position of the company in the market. So all that as being the initialization of the company. And for sure, when we started and met first, we were a little bit more than a PowerPoint company because we had a small lab and we were producing batteries. But it was far from what it became after 2 years, with 150 million invested in an important asset in Grenoble, the VIC, Verkor Innovation Center. This is a kind of a toolbox to develop the product, to train people, to develop the processes of production also. It's at the same time a lot of money, but also very small compared to what's ahead and the so-called 2 billion plus fundraising that we now secured, with a long-term commitment from an important customer, more than 15 billion in order book, but yet to be produced in a factory that we are now erecting in Dunkerque. And at the same time, and probably to pass the ball to Greg again, I think what has been for us not easy in this journey, because you always see the bright side of things, and I think it's also important sometimes to exchange on what is not that easy, is that the plan was clear, and a great testimony on the fact that the plan that we are deploying was the same one from the very beginning. But every single day, as the CEO of the company, the reality is eating us faster than we expected it to eat us, even if, looking back at the slides that we presented to you 2 years ago, we were exactly on those milestones, on those steps and everything. But still, we are still most of the time behind what's happening. Not enough seniority, not enough organized, not enough anticipation, even if everything is written on the paper. So things go fast, and because the project is big, we deploy a lot of capital. We always under-anticipate on a lot of assets, but I think as an investor, you probably saw it also.
I think so. I think one of the things that we really thought about carefully was that the moment that we're entering in seemed pretty unstable. Like, not that we predicted the level of instability today. I think perhaps later this afternoon, things may, depending on what happens with the Hezbollah video that looks like it's going to come out, things could be even worse. And I think what we positioned and thought was that a company that was coming out of, think about it like a national champion type element, right? You've seen that with Northvolt, of course, in Sweden. That's become really fundamental to the way that the Swedes project and think about their broader industrial economy. As an investor, I focus a lot on what we call new industrials, or the reindustrialization of the West, and very much focused on companies that are building in the national interest. And what we thought about with you guys is that the supply-demand imbalance, not just in batteries, but actually in raw materials as well, was way skewed away from what we expected. And at the same time, tech, as we've heard across today, was going through a really significant reset. And so when we looked at that, what we really thought, what are companies as well as countries going to do to actually counter that? Because evaluations are not going to hold up, or if they are going to hold up, they're going to do so in a way that really doesn't look like the last 5 to 6 years, particularly not the last 25 years, of which we've had the explosion of software. And then going forward, the types of companies that are going to be built, what will they look like? I mean, are they going to look like a pure, just a pure AI company that has some, I would say, kind of more commercial application around a knowledge worker tool, or would it be also an industrial application? And I think the same was here, where you guys weren't just designing a battery, you were designing really what then President Macron called the bold step for reindustrialization of your entire country. And that happened within a 2-year period. Has that sunk in with you yet? Because I think for me, not just as your lead investor, but as friends, it's pretty wild to go from you and I talking about, okay, this is going to be a pretty tough fundraising environment, to the president of your country calling you on a weekend asking you how the board meeting went.
I think when I launched Verkor, I was clear on the fact that this was needed, be it with Verkor and with others. This was needed from the start. And in my previous life as entrepreneur or an investor, I also saw that happen many times. When the conviction is there, somehow we have a French expression that says, planets s'alignent, maybe it's in English, it's the stars get aligned, I don't know. But it's what happened. And the fact that simply by being here at the beginning with this conviction, this engagement, and this trust, and the support and the backing of investors and also the community, progressively things have been aligning more and more and more. Until, as you pointed out, that the fact that the French president wanted to make the announcement of the fundraising, which is something that we were somehow proud of, also demonstrating the backing and the support that we were able to manage, and transferred it to a huge bucket of subsidies that was given to also protect the investors' money and secure the development of the company. So I think this is interesting to see that the more we pursue and the more we keep going on the same vision, the more things are getting aligned around us, and we're receiving traction from a lot of people that want to work with us. And this is also why we are now here in the US, because we are having discussions with important stakeholders to become partners here. I think this is interesting, but back to your point, it would probably have been difficult to know in advance that all that would happen and be organized. And I think the important message also that I now try to share is that it's fantastic that in this investing community, a lot of very, very impressive success have been made. For me, what's ahead of us for the next 20, 30 years is probably a lot of other Verkors in various different sectors. But personally, what I think is the most important is that we can accommodate through investment, disruption, new companies, what needs to be done in terms of security of supply of energy and important goods and materials that we need as Western world to work, and that mostly we don't have. The second one is to be able to do that in a way that is going also to reconciliate what I call the triptych. I mean, the free minds we all have in us, that are the citizen, which wants to have, human rights and protection of freedom in his home country. The consumer that always wants a low price because he has been learned through 20 years, 30 years, 40 years that, the cheapest option is always the best for you because you can buy more, which is sometimes very contradictory with the previous one. And the third one, be it the employee. I mean, we have many entrepreneurs and we have many investors, but still as employees, we always want to be paid more. The thing is, you want to be paid more, pay less what you buy, and keep freedom and have the same level of living for all the people in the world. This simply doesn't work until we reconcile that. And what we do at Verkor, on top of doing batteries, raising money to be able to supply low carbon mobility solution, is also to try to combine those, which is absolutely not easy, because for sure, if we compare the price of the batteries that we're going to make in Europe or in the US to the price at which, for example, a Chinese battery can be shipped to our countries, this is clearly raising an important question. And we saw that in the past in the solar PV industry. We saw that in the past, and we may also now see that in the wind industry. And it's a big challenge that I think we need to address, and on which we are clearly engaged, is how do we combine those paradoxes to make them work as a whole, because this will be, for me, the cement of the societal role that we have to play as entrepreneurs. So this is not easy. This is absolutely not easy, but we do believe that this is also the engagement that we have chosen to take when we launch this project. And I think you understand that as an investor.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about that quite a bit. I mean, if tech and innovation is going to be what we expect it to be of the last period, last era, this next era, we really believe it's going to look different. And of course, Verkor is somewhat emblematic of that, but all the things you identified, it's going to have to drive a new set of innovation forward, but also it has like a broad geopolitical element to it that is absolutely critical at this point. If we can't have tech and innovation build jobs that are really kind of focused around not just the knowledge worker economy, but the more broad element of the economy. You and I obviously know the partners that we're spending time with here in the US, but the same thing is happening here. I think seeing the same types of dynamics play out within France, but also here we are in the US, in which that same conversation is happening. I mean, most of the gutting that seems to be put on the table for the IRA, for instance, here in the United States is not really about climate. It's actually about the deployment of dollars into things that A, solve a problem, but B, are actually about getting those dollars into real manufacturing jobs. So, the balance between, for instance, nuclear and call it wind and solar, those are actually relatively valid arguments, because they're about more the base of building that manufacturing base, and not necessarily, I think the agreement is more that we need to move the economy in that direction on both sides of the Atlantic, but ultimately unless we kind of get that balance right where people feel as if industrial policy is geared to build jobs that are going to be, call it sustainable or more durable rather, for 20 years, we're going to be in a very similar position that we were before, because most of the companies that are being built now are not going to have the type of longevity, because valuations are not going to allow for lead checks like ours to continue to drive that forward. That you heard earlier, the notion that profitable businesses are back in vogue. I mean, it sounds a little bit ridiculous to say, and as a relatively new investor, given my age, seeing companies that are building that broader industrial mindset puts them much more in the center of the geopolitical question than we've seen historically in tech in the last period of time. That was really how, as you know, venture capital and innovation really kind of started, but now it seems as if we're back to that. What do you think?
I think it's true, and I would add on that two elements that I learned in the past maybe 2 years is that such projects cannot be only privately pushed. They have to combine the public, either regulation, support, or political direction, and privately backed financial support. And I think it's when you combine both that you can really create projects that will change, because the objective of raising such a large amount of money is not to be called a unicorn or whatever. It's just to have a big impact. And to have a big impact means we need to have large factories to manufacture a lot of batteries, to be more competitive and to be more impactful in terms of how fast can we deploy those technologies, so that you guys in probably the next 5 years don't even think a minute, should I buy an ICE or should I buy an EV? Because EV is going to be the new standard, if not already the case. I think this is one. So combining public ambition, not always easy in our Western world, but it is something that is clearly connected to what we do. And the private capital that also understand, back to the first point, the time it takes to change things. Because, we are in it at Verkor now. We see also the viscosity of simply doing real stuff.
Yep.
It's not completely easy. And with the COVID that was a wake-up, at least in France and in Europe, what we saw now is that we also need to reinvent the connection with work, the connection with the challenges of just doing stuff, because it's much easier to push a new app on your iPhone than to simply be taking some nickel, some lithium, some cobalt, trying to assemble them into a battery that you can have in your car. This is something that probably has been a little bit under the radar lately, and I just take the example of batteries, but it's true for other things that we use. And I think it's important also to surface it more and more, because there is no such thing, probably this is my final word, as combining all those elements, people, customer, capital, and then take all those raw materials that we find to have at the end of our line a car that will be able to be powered for the next probably 20, 30, 40 years, because, as you know, the element that will last longer in an EV is going to be the battery by far. It can reach 1 million kilometers. So this is something that will change our lives, and this is a great satisfaction to see that happening, even if on a daily basis it's no easy journey, but it's such a relief for the team to see that this is absolutely a great reward for us as entrepreneurs.
As you see the S-curves moving through the market, batteries are certainly there. We had wind and solar before, and the next steps that are coming out of that, all the elements that you just brought up, those are all critical to, no pun intended, critical to actually being able to achieve what we want to achieve, not just in building great technology companies, but actually, as we talked about, like getting people into employment, into work that is going to be sustainable and durable, but also is really how we think about it in the West, which is much harder when the notion of public opinion factors in much more now, not only with the transparency that we have and the use of social media, et cetera, but the real ability to build companies that people understand have impact on their lives for a long period of time. With that, thank you very much for your time, and we hope you enjoy lunch.